Welcome, Zay. Thanks for coming to the Career Pathways podcast, of course, where we here talk about careers. Your case is a little special because you are a student entrepreneur, so we're going to dive a little bit about who you are, your journey to getting here at Lyon College, first off, and then we're going to dive into more about your entrepreneurship and what got you started with there. So, to kick things off, let's just start simple. Tell me about who you are.
So, I'm Isaiah Sweetwine from Aurora, Colorado, little city just outside of, well, it's not a little city, but just outside of Denver. Been playing basketball since I was very little, man. I came from kind of a big family. I have two brothers and a sister, so 3 siblings. Just raised, in the typical little household with my mom and my grandparents, and just started playing basketball at a really early age. Came up, I feel like since I was a kid, I got into a bunch of little things. I was really active, always been a little athletic, so that was kind of like my little niche right there. And my journey to Lyon has been crazy, man. Crazy. So out of high school, I was graduated during COVID, and I was supposed to go to a school in my hometown, and that got shut down due to COVID. So went to Kansas on a whim, like last minute, found a school to play at and, continue hooping. And, that didn't really go the way I wanted it to go. We didn't play a lot of games. We went man, we weren't that good. I'm not gonna do them like that, but we weren't that good, man. And COVID really just messed me up. I mean, I was in everybody can imagine where they were at during that time. I was in hotels like every week, quarantining, and it was bad. And so, man, I got through that though. It was a year of that, and just being out there by myself, kind of just getting away from home for a little bit. From there, I went to Trinidad State, a little JUCO, dealt with a bunch of injuries there. It was a big year for just career development, personal development for me. Man, I was out a lot because I was injured. So kind of got to sit by myself a little bit, and that was when COVID kind of started to ease up, and kind of just did a lot of things to kind of find myself. It was a big time for finding out what you like to do outside of playing sports for everybody. I feel like you kind of had to just, figure yourself out. And from there, man, my man Ray Reeves.
Shout out over Ray.
My man Ray Reeves emailed me just saying that, hey, man, we could really use you. And, instant connection right there. Got a visit scheduled, and, man, the rest is history.
Okay. Let's talk about the history that you have formed with Lyon College here as a basketball player, as a student athlete, as someone who is, growing with themselves. Like, let's harp on basketball. Like, how was that? Like, the teammates, the atmosphere, the coaching, deep dive into that. Let us know. Let the people watching know how Lyon College basketball works.
Well, I was a little nervous, man. I felt like, at the time I hadn't really known, all the guys who would be coming in this year with me, or last year. And, I was really nervous because I felt like I was far from home. And, then we got Malik, who's from, who's from California. Then we got Tony, who's from New York. And, man, from day one, I remember the first day we came on campus, and, I pulled up, and you were out there. You were out there. Malik was out there. Man, there was a couple other guys out there. I can't remember. But just, the vibe that you get, you're coming far from home, and you pull up and you're like, I'm doing this all by myself. You think you're out here all alone, and you pull up and like 4 guys who never met you are just ready to move you in just like that.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Ready to move you in just like that, man. And from that day, I just knew, like, man, I'm going to be really close to these guys. Just even basketball or not, man, just like outside of the court and everything else considered, I was just like, man, I'm going to probably get along with these guys just because, that's, everybody wants to feel like that, man, especially when you're far away from home, and you got the guys who move in early, and you pull up and you're like, man, I don't know, I appreciated that, man. Like, from that day, it kind of set the table for, how close we got in, basketball, even outside of basketball. And, it's really a brotherhood, man, no matter like the wins or losses or the stats, at the end of the day, I feel like, we got really close just these past 2 years. It feels like it's been my only school, man.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But, yeah, just people on the outside wouldn't really know, like from the starters to the guys at the end of the bench, man, we've had some times and, we're all really close. And I think that's just been my biggest takeaway from being here.
Okay. So what that being said, like you said, the closeness, the brotherhood, all of that, all comes together. Do you think that is a direct correlation with how Lyon College is, how small and tight knit it is, how someone like Luke Bridges can do 1,000 different things and still be able to maintain, and then you got some people who are able to juggle being the president of the school, being the president of this, being the president of this. Do you think that Lyon College has that to attribute to basketball and sports?
Definitely. At my first two schools, like I said, COVID really took away from a lot of the experiences. I mean, you had fun with your friends off to the side and whatever, but the college experience was really taken away from a lot of people. So being here is like it's crazy because it's my third college and it's my first actual college experience where fans could really come out and you're at a 4-year. My first 4-year was during COVID, so I didn't even really get that experience. And if you've been to a junior college, it's really small, and especially if you're during COVID, man, it just messes up a lot of things. So being here is my first actual college experience, like in depth and full. So I definitely got to see, just how, and Lyon being a small college as well, it just being a small community, I definitely got to see how everybody plays a role. I mean, everybody plays a role in everything. Like you're the RA of the building, and outside of basketball, I'm still going to interact with you on multiple different levels. And, I got to do some really nice things. I went and watched Luke's play the other day, and, just seeing him in a different environment, was really cool just because, I always see him get beat up and beat other people up in practice, and just get to see him do something else that he loves. And, just everybody's like that. It's like that with everybody, man. So, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see different people in their elements for sure.
So, with that being said, dive into the classroom. You are probably gonna mess it up, but you're a business major, and I guess that sort of makes sense since you have your own business. How does the work you've done here at Lyon College with your business major turn into skills and more, I guess, finite abilities to use with your company now?
So, coming from Colorado, it puts me in a different environment. It helps me grow a little bit more just because, business is always being acclimated to new environments, new type of clients. You're going to, interact with a lot of different people. So I think that just set me up as it is, just coming way from Colorado, having to kind of jump in and, wanting to start a business, but I'm not around all my friends, my family. So starting off, you started from practically nothing but your skill set. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm really good at talking to people, but, these people don't really know who I am. And I kind of have to, you get to really test, who you are, who you've been, my whole life being in Colorado or being in Kansas, my first school, and just kind of getting around certain people. I got to, really test my character attributes, man, my ability to market myself, sell an idea to somebody, sell a benefit or an advantage to somebody else who's never seen you before, doesn't know how you speak, doesn't know if you have good intent. You're kind of just walking around like, hey, man, I'm from Colorado, I'm here. And, definitely those skill sets is all you have. All those things is all you have. And, man, I just remember being quiet. I mean, I've talked a little bit more as I've gone on, but just in my business, that's what I have to do. And so it kind of just pushed me out there to kind of, be the best person I could be in all types of assets.
Yeah. So I know the audience is wondering, what is your business? What do you hope to gain from having your business?
So Sweetwine Enterprises is an athlete-centered consulting agency. We take athletes, whether you're former or current, at any level. I mean, Olympians, pro, high school, college, at any level. And, if you have a business-inspired mindset, we'll take you and mold you into, anything you want to be, man. I think it's cool because I don't do the same thing every day, and I get to talk to people who have different ideas. And, what I've learned more about, people who come to me is just like, man, athletes people who come from athletic backgrounds are so innovative. Like, they're innovative, and a lot of them just don't really have the path to kind of talk about what they want to do or put their ideas on paper. Like, what does it look like to get funded to start this business? What is having a website? What is branding, logos, and what does all that stuff have to do with what I want to do? So we take people from all ages and all levels of sports, and you'd be surprised at how many people are 40 and played back in the 90s and
Yeah.
and they want to kind of develop with where society's going in tech and all that type of stuff, real estate, property management, just everything. And so that's what we do. We take those athletes, and it can be from the smallest things to the biggest things. Some of them want pitch decks and want to go to investors and want to present these things to get capital funding or whatever it is, and all the way to the lowest of the low. Some people already have companies and just need websites and don't know how branding works. And, we take those athletes and show them the ropes. And I think just having it be more centered around athletes helps because, you want to learn from people who kind of transition into the life that you're transitioning into, aside from just being regular consulting agency. And, I know nothing about being an athlete. And, so from point A, we already have things in common. You play the sport, I play the sport. I transitioned out of my sport just like you've either already done or you're going to be doing. And you kind of build that relationship from there, man. And you'd just be shocked at how many people don't know that much or how much they do know but don't really know who to go to. So kind of just bridging that gap and, creating a community out of those athletes or former athletes.
Nice. So, a little background. I have a high school coach by the name of Michael Abrahamson. We call him Coach A. And I know a lot of coaches probably say it. It's a phrase that's probably universal to everybody. But the phrase is, how do you handle adversity? That word adversity I believe gets instilled into a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
Just because, on the court, you're going to have adversity. Your shot's not going to be falling one day. You're not going to be playing as good. The ball's not going to fall in the right direction. So on and so on. So many different things that could equal up to adversity.
Yeah.
So you could take it in the sense of how do you handle it and how does your company handle it? But in the grand scheme of things, when you're faced with adversity, what do you do?
I would say the biggest thing just in life that I've tried to learn to have in business or my personal life is having short-term memory. Especially being somebody like on my college career, I shot 40% from three, man. But you have to imagine I've missed a lot of threes in my lifetime.
Yeah.
In workouts, in games, in practice. I can go on, and that's business. Not everybody wants to work with me. I don't even get a reply back from everybody. And, and you're going to get rejected even almost a bunch of times just in sport and business and life. And I think the way I handle that is just short-term memory, man. Like, I missed the last shot. I don't even remember if it went in or not, whether I missed or made it.
Yeah.
And I kind of just try and live my life like that because, if I dread on everything that's happened before my next thing, then, the next thing's already predetermined. And so if I'm worrying about the last shot that didn't go in, my chances of this shot going in probably go down significantly.
Yeah.
So I just take that into business, talking to people, just everyday human interaction, just because, you never really know what everybody else is going through, but you kind of put yourself at a disadvantage if you're already worried about something not working out.
Yeah.
And so I try and just implement that into my life, into my business. And, I'm not perfect. It doesn't work every time. I'll sometimes be like, man, I don't want to do this because how is this going to go right? Or, I've taken the next shot and been like, no way, man. I'm 0 for 5 on the day. I'm 0 for 5 on the day. There is no way this next shot is going in. But short-term memory, man, you kind of got to just implement it into everything you do, and you'll just be rolling after that.
Okay, so with that being said, how do you, when you approach new obstacles, my coach also told me this, but when you approach new obstacles, when you're going into something new, like you said, sometimes you're like, ooh, I don't know, it's an iffy thing. I don't know if it'll work out for me. I don't know if it benefits me. I don't know how much it might hurt me, right?
Yeah.
So when you're going into those situations or whatever, what is your approach? Do you take I'm all in, I'm 2 feet in, I'm 2 feet out? Because you can't be that middle ground. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So what is your approach to that?
That's a good question. I feel like my younger self, I would try and test the waters out a little bit and just kind of see what I was getting myself into a lot. I mean, I remember before I went to my junior college, I was still enrolled at my last school, at my first year school, and I had flew out there to do a workout and stuff. And man, I was still enrolled at my first school. I was still enrolled. And flew out there, and I knew I wasn't going back. I had conversations with the coach, and I was just like, I need to change the scenery. But I kind of would just see like where I could fit in before I fully jumped into things. And I don't really think that worked out for me. I mean, I've had a ton of success, but I don't really think that worked out for me as far as like character development. I feel like when I was at my best was when I full-fledged jumped into something that I was like, man, I'm just gonna just see if this is gonna work out. Yeah. And kind of how I did here, man. Like, I went from Trinidad and then came here and was just like, I don't know anybody. I'm not going to kind of halfway do it. I'm going to fully put myself into it. And so I feel like that's just been the best way to go about it for me. I feel like everybody's different, but that's when I kind of seen myself. It's like getting thrown in the pool instead of having it's kind of like getting thrown in the pool instead of like, you want to see if it's cold, so you dip your toes in. And I used to be like that, but I realized I'm at my best when I'm just jumping in and figuring it out from there.
Yeah. So, like you said, I like what you said. You said you just jump straight in. So I'm quoting a lot of people, but my dad told me, and you can attest to this or not. But my dad always tells me, he said, "Hey, don't worry about the money, because the money is a materialistic, trivial thing, right?" Yeah. He says instead, base your wealth off of opportunities. Because the more opportunities you have, the more opportunity you have to gain wealth, yada, 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 so on, connections, yada, yada, yada. So, as a businessman and with your company and opportunities you've had leading up to your upcoming graduation, would you say you're a wealthy man?
Based on
opportunities
that, based on that definition, oh man, for sure. For sure. That's kind of funny. My dad's the same way. I don't know if it's just a dad thing or not. But I can imagine where I'd be if I skipped out on all the things that didn't make me money. Because to start a business, I mean, you're not starting off making money. You almost go in debt. You almost go in debt to start a business. And just getting in front of the camera, opportunities like this and, getting on podcasts and things like that. I could imagine that I'd be a lot further away from my goals if I skipped out on the opportunities that didn't make me the most money. I guess it goes back to you got to have a love and a passion for what you do, because then you see it as an opportunity and not much of like, a job or, a constraint or a challenge. So I guess it starts from the passion and the love for doing something. And that's when your mind transitions into like, this is more of an opportunity, man. I get to do this rather than, oh man, I got to wake up and I have to go do this today. You get to go do it. And like I said, it just stems from a love or a passion for getting that opportunity. So I'd say definitely, I feel like I'm a wealthy man in those terms. Because man, I've taken a lot of opportunities, even things I'm just like, I dread doing. Sometimes you just want to just lay in the bed and do all these things. But man, nobody's done anything great sleeping.
Yeah. So you're like you said, you're a wealthy man, and that the definition I gave you, and you said that sometimes you have to have a passion for it, right? Seems like you have a passion for a lot of things. You've written 2 books now. You just came out with your second book. Let's start from the beginning. Let's start on your first book. Tell us how that came to be, how you got started writing a book. Give us a little synopsis. Go into detail about it.
So my first book, Sweet, Navigating Life Through Sports, Relationships, and Christ, stemmed from the COVID era where I was trapped in a hotel for a long time. And, at first, I really lost sight of how to communicate with people just because nobody was having a lot of human interactions, face-to-face interactions. So I think for me, it was just a period where like I could only really communicate by writing, and like a lot of emails were being sent at the time. You didn't get in front of people a lot, and
Yeah.
so for me, that's where it started. I mean, it almost started as journal entries. I was just explaining this to somebody the other day, and I was one of my clients actually, and it just started from almost what seems like journal entries. Like you're just writing, and it doesn't really go anywhere. And at the end of the night, you just close it up, and that's kind of the interaction for the day because you're in quarantine. You have to wear a mask everywhere.
Yeah.
And, that element of life was taken away from us, so it kind of started there. I looked up, and I promise you, man, I was doing this often. I looked up, and I had 100 pages,
Yeah.
and I was like, because that's how long that stuff was going on. I mean, a year, 2 years, and I looked up, and I had 100 pages, and I was like, man, somebody could probably benefit from this one day. Somebody's probably coming. I mean, granted, COVID is a time that only we will ever be able to remember because we were there, but there's a bunch of athletes, even outside of COVID, who are probably going to experience a lot of the same things I did. So that's where that book started off. And I had no idea it was going to do what it did. At the time when you're writing it, you just feel like it's more so for you. But at the end of the day, when I released it, man, I realized it was not about me at all. It was about kind of, life at the time and everybody else going through similar stuff. So that book came about so fast.
Yeah.
My second book, that was something in the works just at Lion itself.
Oh, wow.
So all the road trips that you've seen me at the back of the bus, well, you was at the back of the bus.
Sleep half the time, but yeah.
Just in my room, with the guys, just every little chance I was getting to write, I was writing. And, so kind of just writing has been a thing that stemmed from back then, kind of has taken over me, man.
Yeah.
Something I enjoy doing. Now that I do get the human interaction and face-to-face, post-COVID era, I mean, it's still nice to just write. It's still nice to just go back and kind of just see, how you feel for yourself, or even if it's not a personal growth and development book like my first one, even if it is something that's fiction or whatever it is you want to write, it's still nice to just kind of get all that stuff on paper and kind of challenge and test yourself out a little bit. Test if you can put stuff down that other people can read and be like, oh, I understand what you're saying here, all those types of things. So definitely a challenge I put on myself, but I don't know, I like it.
Okay. So I mean, we've been talking about how you are a businessman, right? Businessman Zay.
Businessman.
That's what you are.
You're not
but
lying.
So far, what you've told me is that you're basically an artist at this point. Would you view yourself as that? As an artist?
You know what's crazy? I was watching a podcast the other day, and man, I forgot what type of, I forgot who was the main guest in the podcast. They were saying something similar to that. They were saying something exactly similar to that. And then by the end of that video, I started asking myself, I was like, could I be considered that? I mean, I don't know. Somebody tell me. Somebody tell me. Somebody tell me.
Like I said, basically what you're saying is you're taking something and you're creating something. And you got your center, you got your muse, I would say. You got your muse. And that could be your business. And basically, off of that, you're branching off and you're doing like smaller projects. And it's not in the form of art as in like you're painting something. Yeah. Or if we talk about music, like you're like making music or videos and stuff like that. But you're releasing a product that invokes emotion, invokes some type of like get up and go for people. So at the end of the day, it seems like you don't need to be an artist. We need to call you Zay Van Gogh or something like that. Like that's what I'm hearing.
I was asking myself that the other day. By the end of that podcast, I was like, could I call myself an artist? Seriously? Because, you just get off into a bunch of different things. Like, and I wake up every day. The craziest part is I wake up every day. I still have ideas, man. I'm probably never going to run out. I guess that's just the innovative mind in me is I feel like I can do everything. Yeah. So, man, I'll take the title. That's the title.
Okay, so we're gonna sort of wind down a little bit, but before we do, I'd like to ask you a few more questions. One, starting off, what advice do you have for someone looking to be in your position, and not your immediate position right now, because never stop growing, but someone who is thinking about starting their own business, someone who is thinking about writing their own book, someone who's thinking about taking that journey, regardless of what the end may be, but that entrepreneurship journey. What advice would you have for them?
Piggybacking off of that like the couple last sentences you said, that regardless of what the outcome is, or regardless of what the end goal is for you, I'd say for anybody that sees me and is I want to be where he's at, or whatever path you're taking, I would tell them that my success isn't a reflection of their failures. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we come up in a time where we're all comparing ourselves to each other, and if somebody's doing good or better than me, then that means I have to be doing bad.
Yeah.
And that social media has definitely contributed to that. But I would tell anybody that, man, like, if you look at me and you're just like, man, this guy's really doing well for himself, that doesn't mean you're doing bad for yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like, man, I just hate social media in that aspect because you get online and you see everybody doing something. I mean, I've been a victim of that myself.
Yeah.
Before I started doing everything I'm doing, just seeing people, and you're like, I want to drive that type of car, and I want to make this type of money, and I want to be on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
And you can be in a good spot yourself. You don't even know, because you're basing, their success off of what you don't have. And you look at yourself and you're like, since I don't have this, I must be far behind, not doing good. I can never really see myself being like them because I'm not them right now. But I would tell anybody, man, that my success isn't a reflection of your failures. I got to where I was at, and when I started, there was people who were way ahead of me. Mm-hmm. And if I always looked at them like, he's doing really good, so I must be doing really bad, I would have quit on myself a bunch of times. And I used to be like that, and I have quit on myself before. I mean, I have started a project or an idea and didn't go through with it. I mean, just like anybody has. Yeah. So I definitely would, point them in a direction towards, don't look at me and be like, hey, man, you're doing really good. Yeah. I must be doing horrible.
Yeah.
Kind of takes away from your outlook on life, just anything. It takes away from everything. And I feel like I'm still getting better at that, just because, as you keep making more money, as you keep putting more projects out, as you keep gaining an audience, you keep having these comparison games with yourself, and just take yourself out of that completely, and life becomes a lot more grand.
Okay. Now I'm gonna sort of throw you a wrench in what you just said, because I don't know if it's my ego or what, but I had a conversation with someone a while ago, not too crazy long ago, maybe like 2-3 weeks or whatever, right? And we had a conversation, and we were like, competition is bad, right? Competition bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. Like, it's detrimental to health, yada yada yada, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't agree with that. I said competition is good. Without competition, you wouldn't be in the position you are now. Whether I'm talking about you or someone else, right? Because you always gotta chase something. Like, even when people be like, chase your dreams, you're chasing something. You see what I'm saying? There's competition in that. So let me ask you, what's the difference between, or if you know, what's the difference between competition and comparison?
That's a good question.
I'm saying.
I would say, so take me and you, for instance, and, we're competing to win a basketball game, one-on-one. Let's just say we're playing one-on-one or something, and you win the basketball game. I'm competing because obviously I want to win the basketball game. I guess you could take this in life and anything. Mm-hmm. And you win the basketball game. I lost the basketball game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes me a loser, though,
Okay, yeah.
And so I guess that's the difference. I mean, in the comparison, or in the idea of, what you say, competition, is it the same, or or what's the difference between competition and comparison? Mm-hmm. Somebody could look at me and be like, he lost, he's a loser. Or you can just look at somebody and be like, well, he just lost, And I feel like, and I don't know, maybe I'm kind of just going off the record here, but there's a lot of people that in life we look at and we're like, they shouldn't have these nice things because they're such a horrible person? Or how did they get to that point being such a horrible person? You know, how do they make all this money and they're just not nice? And I don't know. I feel like the difference is just in perspective, because that is a great question. And a lot of people would say, well, yeah, the guy that lost a basketball game, I don't really see him as a loser. He just lost a basketball game.
Yeah.
Or they might look at you and be like, well, he won the basketball game. I don't really think he's that much of a great person. So I probably wouldn't really compare myself to him. You know, he won. I feel like I'm a good person, but you know, good people lose, bad people win in life, you know? And so that's one for the president to answer. That's a good question.
You see the way, like I said, it could be my ego or whatever, but the way I look at it is, let's take your analogy. Say me and you playing a basketball game. We're trying to win, right? And I end up winning. Or let's switch it. You end up winning, right? At the end of the day, I'm going to be hurt. That's all. That's part of it. I'm going to be hurt. I lost the game, blah, blah, blah. You can argue that I'm better than you. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I have to, if you're my competition, I have to compare myself to you in order to supersede you. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. If you won that game, okay, cool. There was errors made, yada, yada. What do I have to do to beat you? You see what I'm saying? If you're a better ball handler than me, and that's one of my downfalls, and that's why I lost the game, I wasn't able to handle the ball, at the end of the day, I have to recognize, hey, Zay's a better ball handler than me. Now, I need to work to at least get to a point where that attribute is null and void. Because if I'm a better post player than you are, then cool, I'm cool with that. If you're a better shooter, I need to find some way to counteract your shooting. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm comparing myself to you in order to beat you and become better as you're my competition. Now, I'm not saying that I'm like breaking my neck and chasing you and like, oh, he's doing this, I gotta do this. You see what I'm saying? I'm not going to that extent. But at the end of the day, like, if I did not have you, consequently, my game would not have been better. Yeah. Because I'm working and I'm doing what I got to do to get to that point. Either get to your point to be as equals or to, like I said, supersede you. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you look at it, now Gavin can't dribble, can't shoot, training to beat this one dude or whatever, right? Now he's shooting exceptionally, he's dribbling exceptionally, yada, yada. Now his game has improved. That's the way I look at it.
Okay. I like that. I like that.
And the thing is, like, you can't, I believe, like, and this could be just an old mindset because there was, I forgot what show said it, but it was like hard times breed good men. Good men create easy times. Easy times create bad men. You see, it's a thing. Yeah. So the way I'm thinking about it is, hey, like you said, if you're talking about the car, say you drive this expensive car or whatever, right? In my mind, I can't say, oh, snap, if he drives this expensive car, like, he's better than me. Of course, because that's going to put me down. Yep. But, hey, you said bad people win sometimes. Yeah. At the end of the day, if I'm a good person, what I need to do to win? Like, if you, I don't know, doing something that you probably shouldn't be doing and you're getting that way, and at the end of the day, what is something that I can do to counteract you so I can get in that position? If that's the position I want. Like, if you're driving, I don't know, let's say you're driving a BMW, right? And I want a BMW, favorite car or whatever, right? Yeah. You doing what you got to do to get yours. At the end of the day, what is Zay doing that's working for Zay? Cool. What can Gavin do that's going to work for Gavin? And that quick comparison, just because I want to get where you're at, makes me better. And that's my idea.
Man, that's not bad. I feel like then it gets to the point of how much of either one is, like, to what point do you get where one of those becomes unhealthy? I mean, and that's an even better question. This can go down a bunch of rabbit holes. I feel like.
And then you can bring in like relationships as well, because like, me and you were cool, so it'd be different if we just hated each other, because then that would breed, like, unhealthy environment. But like you said, you see on TikTok and Instagram all the time, like, oh, this is supposed to be my friend group where we all had a nice car or we all doing this or whatever. You see that all the time. So at that point, I'm pushing you because you pushing me. At the end of the day, the second I stop pushing you and you stop pushing me, then there's no growth. Yeah. It becomes stagnant. Yeah. And that's why I look at college or whatever. That's why we got professors. Professors give you a grade for a reason. They're not just, if it was easy, everybody would do it. You know what I'm saying? If I took an exam and I was getting an A, then I would just mess around. There would be no point in me actually studying. There would be no point in me actually doing the exam.
No, I understand that, and that was gonna be my response to that was, you know, you said you look at these people and you want to get to where they're at or whatever it is, and this guy may not be a good guy, but he drives the nice cars that you want, or this girl may not be as nice, but she has, you know, the type of man that you're like, man, I wish I had a husband or whatever, just like that. It happens. I mean, you know, it just happens. So I guess it goes down to, and I firmly believe that it goes down to who are these people? You know, who are these people? Because if they're not good people, I really don't want to took the route that they did to get to where they're at anyways. Because, man, when you get there, it's hard to enjoy stuff. I mean, I don't know. We were all kids once, and we probably all made mistakes. But I don't know if you've ever thought something was cool, but you didn't really take the best routes to get there or get it. And then once you got it, you're just like, yeah, exactly. But this person over there doesn't really know you, and they just think you're happy with what you got because it's cool. And they don't really know that, man, I acted a fool to get to this point, and I've lost, you know, all my relationships with everybody I know to get to this point. But I got the nice car, though. But if you knew that, then you would be like, man, I don't even want the car.
Exactly. So, yeah. I mean, we went off on a little tangent right there. But I guess a good way to end it, and like I said, this is all about, you know, the self-improvement, the well-being of others, and the enjoyment of the audience. I've been quoting a lot of people today.
Yeah, that's all right though.
Now it's your turn. I'm gonna turn you over the book. What is your favorite quote? What is something that you live by, and that you can just rattle off like that you feel like the people watching this video could really benefit from?
What's a quote? I feel like I just watch so many podcasts. I hear so many great things in life. I think for me, it's so cliche. I have a bunch, man, and they're all just cliche. Sounds like I'm just.
Hey, sometimes they the best. I mean,
no, I mean they really are, and I actually got it tattooed on me, just the whole idea of it. But just to have no fear. I mean, fear just, man, it's almost like a bad drug. Even it feels like sometimes.
Man, I'm gonna cut you off. Zay, bro, we counteract each other so bad, bro. You said no fear. I believe you have fear. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's just like,
no, man. Have no fear. I mean, in things that you want to do, or the paths that you want to take, I feel like what's the number one thing that will stop you from doing that? And, you know, people, for example, let's take a business. You want to start a business. You have the fear of, I'm not going to make money. I mean, did you know? And this is what I would say to somebody who says, they come to me, I fear I'm not going to make money. I fear that if I put this together, nobody's going to be interested. And, you know, I have to tell them, like, did you know that all these people that have made money and been successful, and granted, there's some exceptions to this. I mean, some people have money when they start businesses. You have people that come from wealthy families, whatever. Yeah. But, you know, most people go in debt to make businesses and start businesses. And you have to look at these people like, I mean, don't be scared, because, I mean, the fear that you have ultimately will be something that you look back and be like, why did I ever even think about this? Like, if I started a business and was so scared about making money, knowing that you almost even go in debt to start a business, you spend your own money, you know, and I think just the idea of it, you just look back and be like, why was I ever scared? You know, you break even, you start having profit, you start just enjoying what you do more, you get around a lot of cool people, and you're just like, man, imagine if I actually was just scared to even start, to even make a post, to even reach out to this client or whatever. And I just remind myself to just never be scared, no matter how young you are. Man, there's a lot of people who are just, and I guess fear goes hand in hand with the idea of being socially accepted. A lot of people want to be accepted for the things they're doing, and you kind of have to take away that aspect of it, because a lot of people have a lot of money and are famous and are successful for all types of reasons. And sometimes you may be successful for a reason that's not really as valuable to somebody else. You know, somebody on the earth doesn't really care to help athletes out. They don't really have a desire for it. But, I mean, just don't walk around being like, man, I hope this guy likes me. I hope this guy likes me. It's not coming from a place of they're going to dislike you, but maybe they just don't care, or they're not as passionate about something as much as you are. And that kind of goes with fear, is the idea of, I don't want to be myself because these people aren't going to like me. You know, It doesn't really stem from a place of dislike, but some people just aren't really as interested, man, in, you know, what you have going on. And I mean, honestly, I feel like that's okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I personally like to be around people who also have different type of interests. You know, I don't like to be around people who are the exact same as me. So I think it's all right. But it comes from a place of fear that you don't really put yourself out there and you don't really put yourself in those places. And that's what I try and remind myself of that, because the world's always changing and people are going to come up with ideas that you're going to be like,
yeah.
I mean, imagine you come up with something and you're like, man, nobody will ever get on board with this. The next guy comes up with it and he becomes a billionaire. And you're like, man, I should have went through with this, because man, look at how much people accept it and are taking a liking to, you know, this type of mindset. And you're over here like, man, I was scared. I didn't want to do it. So I don't know. That's kind of my viewpoint on it. You know, I mean, what's your contradicting statement?
You can come to me. So I believe, like, I'll make it quick, but I believe, I say have fear. Because, I mean, like you said, fear could be a drug.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not a good thing. But at the end of the day, it's the way I think this conversation we've like just basically had is basically how you view it. Because at the end of the day, you said have no fear. You're not. It's not gonna keep you from doing things. Like fear might hold you back from making that connection. Fear might hold you back from making that purchase that could help your business. That could help write you a better book. Yada yada yada. You see what I'm saying? I think it's all the way you channel it. Have fear, because at the end of the day, like I said with competition, you have someone chasing you, bruh. You're not gonna like you shouldn't dwindle down. You shouldn't like wilt like a flower. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a dying flower. You have fear, bruh. You're going to be able to push yourself. You're gonna. It's either what is it? Make or break at that point. That's that fight or flight response. Exactly. If you have something that's going to like make you like itch, your skin crawl, what are you gonna do to get out that uncomfortable situation? You're not gonna stay there. So say for example, a job interview, right? Everybody goes to a job interview, they prepare themselves, they, freshen up, they get their hair cut, they write notes or whatever.
Yep.
When they get in that situation, that's when the fear hits.
Yeah.
And that's when people, like I said, make or break. Are they going to rise to the occasion? Or are they going to drop? And that's when people get hired, those people rose. People who didn't, those people drop.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you got someone on your tail, hey, I need to push myself. I need to get better in what this is. There's a quote by, I forgot who it is, but it's on one of Dr. Dre's songs, and it's the opener. He's basically talking about, he's like, hey, fear is fuel. It's either gonna help you or it's gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
At that point, you just gotta make a decision on which path you want to go. How much hurt do you want to feel at that point? And so that's how I look at it. You see what I'm saying? But
no, I agree with that, and I think where I'm coming from is more of a sense of a lot of people are neglected in the sense of when they feel adversity or fear, they don't know what to do other than to just not do something, because they're safer when they're not doing something. They're not doing something about whatever is challenging them. And so I guess when I think about, just society and the way our generation is today and how quick cancel culture is now.
Oh, yeah.
How fast you can get put down for just even having an idea. How fast somebody will tell you that, like, this is dumb. Why are you doing this? Nobody needs this in life. And when people get all that type of feedback and, you don't really, I mean, granted, everybody comes from different households, different friendships, different upbringings. Maybe you aren't really trained to just be like, okay, I'm going to get through it. I feel like more times than not, people are, the type to be like, I'm going to listen to what everybody else has to say and the feedback everybody's giving me about what I want to do.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to yourself, like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So they let that fear, and you mentioned like letting your skin crawl and feeling that itch. And a lot of people are neglected in that sense, that when they do feel that, they are like, all I know is to not go through with what I want to do. I'm going to listen to everybody else.
And I guess I would say, because like you said, your company is basically like what athletes do after. And I guess my point of view is more of an athletic, like point of view. Because like I said, I've had I don't know if shout out Coach Mays. I can't remember if he says it, but if he did, it's not discrediting him for saying it. But my high school coach would always say it: get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, that's been instilled in my brain. So for me, my thought process is, hey, like, at the end of the day, the sun is still gonna come up.
Yeah.
The moon is still gonna set. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's gonna be a next day. You see what I'm saying? So, like, at the end of the day, for me to allow myself to be, and I'm not saying don't take no breaks. Everybody needs a break one time. But for me to allow myself to have that one thing hinder me, especially, like I said, ego coming into play, especially because I know I'm great and I know that I'm going to accomplish great things. To let that one minuscule thing keep me that way, I'm just like, hey, that shouldn't be how it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. In business mindset, I live in a place of uncomfort on a day to day, and most people would hear that and be like, "Man, that sounds miserable." But
yeah,
I mean, you know, you're going to interact with all different types of people. You're going to do all different types of things that just aren't really comfortable for you, and you know, and so for me, I agree with that. That's why I kind of displace fear from comfort and uncomfortness, because I kind of live in an uncomfortable space just by nature. I'm okay with being uncomfortable just because I know that's how life is. You know, coming far from home, not being around people you know, and just all different types of, you know, just life experiences like that. So I definitely understand that point of view too, just being uncomfortable, because, I mean, most entrepreneurs, you look at them and they probably are already living that life. But then they would tell you, man, I'm not scared of nothing. You know?
yeah, they put their front up. Yeah,
yeah. So,
well, I mean, I guess that's a good way to end it as any.
Yeah, man, you are. This the best podcast host in the country, man.
That's gotta be, man. But I want to thank you, Zay, for coming on the Career Pathways podcast. I know with me, you gave me a lot of insight, basically, about who you are now. Shoot, I've known you the whole 2 years now. So I mean, I've been knowing you, but this gave me a little insight about more who you are. I hope the audience enjoyed it just as much as I did.
Yeah, there's going to be some opinions. There's going to be we done created some arguments. We created some arguments today.
Yeah, talk about cancel culture. We might be next, but hey. But like I said, thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll have you again.
Nah, man, I appreciate it. And I hope you keep on keeping on with your podcast journey.
Got to, man.
I hope you keep on keeping on, because you really bring... I mean, it's one thing to do a podcast, but you can get in here and not really bring the most out of somebody who has a lot to say. But
yeah,
man, I'm in here and you got me just...
You're rambling, huh?
Yeah. So, no, I appreciate it, man. It's been fun.
Yes, sir.
This broadcast is sponsored in part by Lyon College and by Kilt Studios.